Have you noticed yourself or your friends sneezing more often or suffering from other allergy symptoms? You're not alone. A new study from the Centers for Disease Control shows 1 in 3 adults, 1 in 4 kids suffer from a seasonal allergy, a food allergy, or eczema. Well, the study wasn't designed to see if allergies are on the rise. A researcher with the CDC says allergies have become more prevalent.
Joining us now is Dr. Zafia Anklesaria. She's a pulmonologist who specializes in allergies. Thanks for making the trip in. We have the Kleenex just in case we need it during this segment. Let's hope not.
Spring is in the air.
Right?
Yeah.
So we've had a significant amount of rain. And I was always under the impression that the rain clears out the air and you shouldn't have allergies then, but that's not necessarily the case.
No, not necessarily. It does seem like the logical assumption that that's what it would do, right? It would clean up the air, reducing your allergens and allergy symptoms. It does do that a little bit, but what it also does is the rain breaks down the pollen that's already on the ground, and it makes it more likely to become airborne. And then it also creates humid conditions, so the pollen that gets airborne is more likely to stay airborne as well. So it increases the levels of pollen in the air. The other thing rain does is it triggers growth, right? Growth of grass, growth of flowers. So in the hours and days following a rainstorm, you're going to see significantly increased amounts of pollen, and therefore this may worsen your allergy symptoms. Actually not done with the bad news for rain, because rain also creates damp and humid conditions. What loves damp and humid conditions is mold. Mold is another very common thing that causes allergies. So people who have mold allergies, bad news for that too.
So how do we know if it's an allergy versus, say, a cold or COVID or just feeling run down because you're working too much and don't get enough sleep?
I feel all of those all the time. But long story short is in the beginning, you actually may not know. So I'm sure all of us have either experienced or know somebody who has quote-unquote hay fever, right? I like to call it the stuffies, the scratchies, and the sniffies, because you get runny nose, scratchy throat, itchy eyes. All that can make you feel pretty run down. I could easily be describing the symptoms of a common cold or a more serious virus like influenza, RSV, COVID. The symptoms that mimic allergies tend to happen earlier in the disease, and of the viruses, I mean. And as they progress, you get more systemic symptoms, fatigue, body aches, fevers. The mucus that you produce may become a little more discolored, cough more productive. So those are the ways to differentiate it. We also ask people a lot of questions. Luckily, people know their bodies quite well. They know what triggers them. People who have a history of allergies can say, this really feels like my seasonal allergies, or we know it's respiratory viral season versus is it allergy season. So these are the ways we differentiate it. It's hard to know yourself.
And in terms of getting some relief, if you have to choose between an air purifier and a humidifier, there are benefits to both.
Yes.
But if you had to choose between one, what would that be?
So for allergies, if I had to choose between one, I'd grab an air purifier and run it all the time, keep your windows closed. The air purifier, as the name suggests, it basically kind of sucks or filters out the particles that can cause allergies. So if you run it as much as possible, it can definitely help reduce your symptoms. A humidifier, when used correctly, correct levels of humidity and good cleaning, can help in reducing your symptoms of that scratchiness.
Is there a better air purifier to get?
Ooh. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. All right. Very nice. Thank you very much. This was really useful information.
Yes,
I think
helpful.
a lot of people can relate to. We appreciate your perspective.
Yeah, pleasure.
All right. Coming up.